Welcome to the Union Weekly Insider. I'm Andrew Lindy. This is the official podcast for the Union Weekly out of Cal State Long Beach. I'm going to take you behind the scenes and show you what it takes to put together a weekly student publication.
Hello and welcome to a very special edition of the Union Weekly Insider. I'm Andrew Lindy, and I'm sitting here with Jordan Daniels.
How's it going, guys?
I wanted to have a nice sit-down conversation with you for a while now. So, Jordan.
Yes.
I want to know about your journey.
My journey, okay.
I want to know about you.
Okay, what do you want to know?
Well, first I want to know, how did you get started with the Union Weekly?
Well, I transferred here from the lovely town of Oceanside, California, and transferred my community college and came here for journalism and public relations for my major. And so I took the writing for the 49er class. So I originally wrote for 49er for the first semester, all semester. And my friends in my class were part of the Union Weekly. And not 49er class, friends I met at SOAR, the transfer information day. And my peer classes, they were in Union Weekly, Emily and Savannah. And so I wanted to contribute because I felt that the 49er, which I hugely respect and admire, that their format wasn't necessarily for me. You know, it's definitely it is more newsy. It's more stylistic, and I want a more expressionistic type of like my style is more expressionistic for writing, and I'm not huge on like restrictions and limitations of what I can do. So I wanted to contribute to the Union Weekly, just to do more things, because it's more feature magazine-ish style writing for Union Weekly, so I wanted that experience as well as like news writing as well too. And so I wrote for Union Weekly, and then Katie and Richard had talked to me. I think at one point I did like 3-4 stories in a whole week. And Katie and Richard talked to me and said, we really want you to be a staff writer for the Union Weekly. And I was like, well, that sounds great, because I am not getting what I want out of 49er in the sense of I'm not doing what I want to do. I'm getting great experience, which I like constantly think about and thank 49er for. I think it's a great way to start off with your writing, especially when you don't know a lot about like journalism writing. But I was really into the brand more of the Union Weekly, and so I started writing with them the next semester as a staff writer, and then now I'm the opinions editor this year, hopefully.
How do you like being the opinions editor?
I do love it. It is a bit of a challenge in the sense that it's hard to find writers, because people believe that writing opinions is easy, but it really isn't, because when you think about it, having an opinion is not easy at all. You have to be active and strong and support what you're saying. It's not about opinions aren't, I think so-and-so is dumb. It's, I think so-and-so is not good for X, Y, and Z, and let me support that with these statements. And it's hard to do that. But at the same time, I'm all about transparency, and I'm all about like cultivating a voice. Growing up, I did not have a big voice growing up as a person. I was bullied a lot for a lot of reasons, and so it's really ironic, because I always say like I was a big guy with a small voice. And so when I went to community college, I really started finding that voice when I became more like an activist of sorts. And so I'm all about cultivating and finding a voice and like learning how to shape it up and master it, And I mean, I'm very opinionated. I'm very outspoken. I'm very honest. I'm very blunt. I'm not condescending at all in any way. At least that's how I feel. You can disagree with me if you want. That's your opinions. So write about it and send it to me. But I definitely feel. I feel really good, and I always ask my writers who I work with. I say, if there's anything that I'm doing that you don't like, please tell me, because I can't be a better editor. I can't be a better person if I don't know what I'm doing wrong, if I'm doing anything wrong. But I haven't had any complaints so far, so that's really good. I hope you're not scared of me. I don't think I'm intimidating necessarily. I can be, but I try not to be. But yeah, like I said, I'm about transparency, and I love being an opinions editor because I want to help cultivate and be a platform for voices. It's not about me doing it. It's like my page is a platform for other voices. I think a big thing that I approach this semester is that I want to get outside voices as well, not necessarily those who are in the journalism department. Because I think there is with opinions, you have the freedom to be an outside voice and make it heard.
So I think it's safe to say that a lot of people say that you have a big personality around the
It is
office.
safe to say.
When do you think you came into that big personality?
Ooh, I've always had it. I will say I've always had a big personality. My parents, my mom especially, is a businesswoman, and so as if you think about it, being a woman in corporate America, which is quote unquote man dominated world, you have to have a big personality, and my dad is growing up. He's a big growing up from when I see him. He was not when I see him. He lives with me. Growing up with my father, he's different now because he's had several strokes since the past few years. But before his stroke, he was more quiet and reserved. But when you got to know him, he had a huge personality as well. So I've always had two like type A personalities in a sense growing up with. So I really didn't have a choice but to become a big personality. So I've always had it. I had it a lot around family and like very few friends growing up because like I said, being bullied, I had a really small voice in that sense. When high school came, I became a bit more boisterous. I became a bit more open with like how with like what I think and who I am and stuff. But I think community college, when I really found that voice because I grew up in the Bay Area. Shout out to East Bay. And so I moved after high school to Oceanside. So I moved from a really huge, like, culturally diverse area where, like, every house on my street was a different culture to a predominantly white area in Oceanside. And my community college was predominantly white as well. So I got thrown into a really huge, like, I guess, culture shock in that sense. And I realized I need to get myself out there. And it's funny because even coming from the Bay Area, a lot of people are like, oh, you're so different and so, like, interesting and fascinating because you're from, like, a different place, which is really funny because I really never felt like I fit into a certain, like, mold. And so I think that really got me into, like, my whole big personality was that, like, I knew, like, I've always known I've been different in some way because like I said, I don't fit in a lot of ways to standards or molds. So instead of trying to, like, find a place where I fit in, I just find a place to transcend those. So I think that contributed a lot with being thrown into a different type of culture where I had to do that to be heard, and now I'm all about being heard. I make sure now my voice is heard as opposed to waiting for someone else to hear me.
Do you incorporate these ideas of not fitting in your work as an opinions editor?
Yes, I want to say I do. I think my second issue, I wanted to have two pieces about coming into the school year, based off of things that have transpired over the past summer and last semester in regards to being a Black student on campus and a LGBT student on campus. And I think already those 2 points are already an idea of, like, not fitting in because they're not they're not mainstream. Like me myself, like, I'm mixed. I'm Black and Hungarian, and then I'm also queer as well. So I'm already an intersectionality of that. So I don't fit in that aspect, and so I wanted a piece where, I definitely want, like, feel good opinion pieces, but I also want stuff that, like, really matters to people, And I think it didn't fit in the mainstream in a lot of ways. One, because it was a really good collection, like an account of a Black experience and a gay experience on campus, and when you tell a campus as a whole, as a collective, you don't want to hear about, like, bad things that happen. So that was very different in the sense that, like, they were both not great experiences that I think people deserve to hear because other people go through that experience and they don't know that anyone else knows how they feel. So the gay aspect was about, how every so often we'll have someone who has a religious affiliation come on campus and preach about how, like, homosexuality is a sin and we're all going to burn in hell. And then, the past was transpired with Black Lives Matter movement in terms of racial injustice against Black citizens and the whole, like, knife gate incident last semester. So I think that was very different. I think it was different in the sense that, sorry, I'm getting, like, it makes me like heart swell when I think about it because I was just really happy with both pieces. It makes it different in the sense that, like I said, I had the Black account was someone who's not in the journalism department or program and not a staff writer, so I had, like, someone from the outside do, like, an inside perspective, and that, to me, that's really different as well. I really want to, be alternative I'm a very unconventional person as it is already, and so I want to find ways to incorporate that into being an editor. So I think I did do that to answer your question in a concise way. I'm an oversharer. I am so sorry.
No, that's good. This is why I wanted you on a more long form style interview.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna hear my voice for an hour. I'm gonna be like, I cannot deal with myself.
So have you on this campus at Cal State Long Beach had any of those negative experiences personally yourself?
Yes, I have seen the preachers on campus who talk about being homosexual is a sin and how bad it is, and that I'm gonna burn in hell. I see hell as like a hot springs resort, so it sounds amazing, to be quite honest. Like a constant, hot tub. Maybe too hot considering how humid it is. But if it's as humid in hell as it is right now in America, I probably won't like it very much. I'm already dying as it is. But yeah, so I've definitely experienced that. I've experienced, I think people don't understand that when things happen that affect your community, it doesn't have to affect you directly in person. It still affects you psychologically. So like when the Holy Knife Gate incident happened, where the student pulled a white passing student pulled, from my knowledge of what I believe happened. From what we were given, a white passing student pulled a knife out behind a black woman in the middle of a class in a racially charged discussion. That affected me psychologically. One, because I am a huge proprietor of I think proprietor is the correct word, right? Well, I'm largely into women's rights. And I identify as an intersectional feminist, and I'm all about like Black empowerment right now as well. Right now, I always have been, and so. That affected me psychologically because that was just another instance on a local level of that there wasn't much regard for like a Black life, because when you hear anything about it for a whole week, and I think people aren't getting that was the issue. There was no transparency. We had to put it out there. We get a Tommy warning about a sexual assault that doesn't happen on campus at all. That happens like 20 minutes away, which is I think that's so important, and we have a right to know. But my point is that we had a right to know about this incident in campus as well, where a knife was put out in class, and they justified it as like it was a small knife. It was a weapon on campus in a classroom setting, and I think the issue was that there was no regard for like a Black life in that sense. Who cares if the life wasn't quote unquote in danger? The fact that happened and we heard nothing about it, that really bothered me a lot. So I definitely was affected psychologically. I'm also affected a bit differently considering I am mixed. That I'm affected in the sense of like. I get not a lot, but like there are instances where I feel like I have to like validate my Blackness as a person to other like Black students on campus. I have to like hide my Blackness around like students of like non-color on campus. That's the same thing with validating my sexuality. Like I'm not a six-pack. I'm not like all these like standards that we have, and so I experienced it a lot. It may not even be like directly said to me, but it doesn't have to be for it to affect me. Like I experienced a lot of like pressures that are put upon not just me, but society as a whole, especially in the different communities I am. But I have I've had some microaggressions on campus as well, where like a student, like specifically in a class, a student was talking about, we were watching movies, about different films now. It's about how much I love rom-coms, and this like cisgender man was like, I can't watch rom-coms because those are chick flicks, and I was like, what's wrong with a chick flick? And his girlfriend was like, well, I mean, that's okay for you to watch them because you're more feminine. And I was like, so you're saying that I have to be feminine to watch a romantic comedy? Like you can't genderize a film. So like it's like, even though it's like I experienced a lot more microaggressions that affect me more than I do like explicitly, but I think that's the whole point. Not the whole point. I think that's a whole issue that we have, especially on campus, is the idea of microaggressions and like how people do things in a subtle way that aren't necessarily explicitly like discriminatory or racist or rude. It's just they say things like that, or like, where are you from, or I love your hair. What is your hair? You have really ethnic hair. It's a bit nappy today. I have a lot of different experiences that I get on campus, which is a bit frustrating. I feel like I became a tangent to that question. I did a little bit. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Let's shift gears for a minute. And
Shut up, Jordan. Let me just stop and get back together.
Well, I do want to ask you, how did you come to journalism?
That's actually a good question because my mom always said you should be a lawyer because you argue a lot, and I do. I'm a huge negotiator, and so I was actually looking into doing environmental law when I was in high school because I was in our school sustainability club for 2 years, and so I was doing environmental law, and actually I really wanted to go to UC San Diego. I did not get in, which thank God, to be quite honest, because that would be expensive AF, and I would have been being in this. And I realized at that point that when I started going to community college, so at first I was like, oh my God, I'm going to community college, I'm going to be a failure. There's such a huge stigma attached to community colleges that I am so glad that I got out of that stigma, because it's not true. I think community colleges are great places because you especially learn what you really want to do. You spend so much less money figuring it out, so you can spend the money that you need to spend when you want to really know what you want to do. And I realized that whatever I like or dislike, whenever I stop, because I also thought doing theater, being like a theater or film major, because I have done theater my whole life as well. So I wanted to do theater or film, and I realized regardless of what I stop or what I continue, I've always come back to writing. I've always loved writing. I used to journal. I used to write on Facebook all the time. I would. This is gonna be really personal, and I hope that no one thinks this is in the way that they're gonna take it as. But I used to role play on Tumblr, and it's not sexually. People that you sexualize role play. No, role play is like Teen Wolf, the TV show. We'd have those role plays on Tumblr about Teen Wolves. I would be a character on the show. I role play a character, and when the season ends, we'll just take that season further and just continue the season in our own way. So I role play a lot, and I realized I've always loved writing. I've always loved the idea of being a storyteller. I mean, you can take this as me being arrogant or whatever, but I think I'm a really fascinating person. I honestly feel like I interest myself a lot, and so I think I tell really good stories. I love stories. I've always been the idea of stories. I think stories are a great way to suspend belief, but also incorporate lessons that affect reality immensely. So I've always loved writing, and I realized I've always been into issues, especially social issues. I've always been into social issues, especially being built upon intersectionalities of who I am. That I've always experienced social issues. I have always wanted to talk about it. So I realized I wanted journalism after I graduated, and I started doing journalism classes in community college. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to do more freelance, more op-ed stuff. I kind of want to start my own magazine. To be quite honest, I really want to start a culture magazine. But I'm gonna stop right there because you asked me what got into journalism, not what I want to do next. So I'm gonna stop right there.
So you're talking about print media. What are you reading currently?
Currently, okay, so I do a mix of print and online. I don't do a lot of print, but one, because I can't afford it. I just can't buy print. I do get GQ sent to me. I'm really into fashion, so I do love GQ. I used to have the New York Times app on my phone to pay for it, and I was like, I'm not paying for this. But I do read New York Times. I don't have a lot of print. I think print now, I read Dig, I read 49, I read the Union Weekly. Besides that, I get The Edge. I try to find free prints that are out as opposed to paying for it, because I'm balling on a budget, and my budget is very small. Can barely afford food. I can't afford getting print. I also like to read like Lenny, which is a feminist online newspaper. Variety, Vulture. Bustle. I read. I would say definitely read more online than print. I love print. I love the smell of paper. I know it sounds weird, but I love the smell of paper. It's not as accessible. That and I live in an apartment, and I don't necessarily trust people to not go through my mail and take my print. So I just stick to online mostly. But if I could get print, I would. Oh, and Time. I will always buy Time. I love Time magazine. I always want to write for Time. I will buy it in the store if I have to. I love Time. So I think to me time is a standard.
So I want to shift gears again.
Lane shift.
You came from Oceanside, and now you're living here in Long Beach?
Yes, I live in North Long Beach.
How's that going?
Oh, I love it. When I first moved to Long Beach, when I transferred here, I lived in Bellflower. I'm not gonna throw a shade at Bellflower, but I just didn't. I didn't like where I was living for a plethora of reasons. And my current roommate, Emily, my BFF, I'm going to shout out to her. She's going to hate me if she ever hears this. She lived in the same, legit the same street. So where we live now is literally next door to where she lived before in her studio. And so when we hang out and stuff, I always go to her place. And I just loved her area. It's around, right around the Bixby Knolls and California Heights cusp area. So I absolutely love it there. And we have a cute little like Pinterest everything apartment. I'm sorry, not like we ain't Pinterest anything there, but it should be on Pinterest. Our apartment is everything, I'm not gonna lie. And so yeah, so I love it. I love Long Beach as a whole. I was just talking to my mom about this last night. She was visiting me. And we were with her friend, and her friend was talking about Long Beach, how she always hears that Long Beach was like getting infested and like dangerous. And I was like, that's such a huge like misconception. Like it's there in every like metropolitan town, but Long Beach I think it's a great place. I think it's a hip hop town. I mean, as like a hip hop in town. That sounds so white. Hip hop in town. And truly, there's it's artsy. There's a lot of art stuff here. It's there's a lot of great music here. I love the food. I love our cuisine. I love the culture here. I actually just read that we're one of the most culturally diverse cities in the U.S. as well. So I love Long Beach, and I think there's so much to do here. I think it's a great like LA-esque type feel. It's like LA with a more like beach vibe, just not as crazy as LA is. So I love it. It's also a great point, like a great midpoint between like LA and San Diego or something. Like you can go to either or. I think the location's great. I love the town. I am like pro Long Beach right now. I'm drinking the juice here.
Let's take a quick little break, but when we come back, we'll have more Jordan.
Yes, okay. My name is Quinn, and I'm an executive producer at College Beat. College Beat Television is a student-run production company, and we focus on like basically all aspects of production, whether it be writing, directing, producing. Like if students want to get involved, they don't need to know if like they're beginners and they want to learn, like we're open for them and there's training available. So we have a handful, like a lot of shows this semester. We have Beach Access, which is more of like a journalism. We do more on location stuff. Do you want to go over what like Long Beach is? I don't know how to describe your show this semester. You're taking a different direction.
Yeah, it's a satirical like news variety show.
And then there is we have Spotlight this semester, which is more of a short form video content. So if you think like trending news, we have Studio 112, which is more catered to narrative videos. And then we also have videos that other volunteers are producing, like such as And We Vote, CV Life, and there's also Sketch. Sketch is basically, if you think like Key and Peele type of content, just as it sounds, like sketch comedy. The best way to find us and get involved is through our Facebook page. Yeah, you get all the updates up there, and you'll find out if we're uploading on YouTube.
All right, we're back with the Union Weekly Insider. I'm sitting here talking to Jordan Daniels, who is the current opinions editor at the Long Beach Union Weekly.
What's up?
Now, I wanted to circle back on something that you mentioned earlier. You mentioned that when you were growing up, you were bullied.
Yes.
And you had mentioned that, of course, you are queer, you're of mixed race. Do you feel that all of those things came together to kind of inform the way that you view the world?
Yes and no. I think so I'm queer. I am mixed race. I have a speech impediment. I am overweight or like obese, quote unquote obese by scientific standards of my doctor, which I can't stand you right now. So I really do not fit. And in the pun intended, do not fit into any type of like social like mean, and so or hierarchy. And so I definitely think it has shaped my view of the world in a lot of ways. I think I had a lot more like not hatred but like distaste for society before. Now I'm all about finding my own space and making space and acknowledging that I'm worthy of taking up space. I think that's a huge thing for me is that I always believed that I couldn't take up space. Which is ironic because literally I am I'm overweight, so it's like I take up more space than the average person, but I always like shrink. Like I shrink myself down. Even in my body language, my friends have made this point to me several times. When we're in crowds, I can maneuver crowds like a snake. You would think I can't squeeze past people. I can squeeze past the tiniest part of anybody. Like, and people are like, Jordan, like, no offense, but like you're a bit but you're bigger. It's like, how do you do that? And that's because like I've been taught to like take up less space as a person. So my view of the world when I was younger was definitely like the world hates me. I'm never gonna fit in. I'm too gay, I'm too feminine, I'm too fat, I'm too black for the white passing folks, I'm too white for the people of color. I'm too much of everything. And at some point I realized, like, why is too much so bad? Like, we're all taught as children to never be too little. But when you are literally too much, then it's a problem. And I was like, I'm tired of subscribing to this, idea that I'm too much. Like, you can never have too much of anything, truly. Like, people say you can, but I don't feel that way. I don't think I can be, I don't think I can be too much. I think, when people are like, you're so extra, I'm like, I'm just enough, to be quite honest, because I shouldn't be shamed for the things I am. I used to treat I used to treat who I am as an affectation. Like my weight happened to me, being gay happened to me, being black happened to me, being mixed race happened to me, my speech happened to me. That did happen to me on that part. But truly, like I used to treat it as like some sort of curse, and I realized like the power you have in embracing that and owning that is a power that like society or a person does not have over you anymore. Now, like, I will say I'm fat. I will say I'm queer. I will say I'm fat, black, queer, mixed race, I have a speech impediment. I am loud AF. I am crazy as heck. I am also passionate and humble. I think I'm a great friend. I think I'd be a great, significant other to another person. Like, I am all these things, and that's part of who I am. And I think that shaped my view of the world now. It's not so pessimistic as it used to be. I'm very about being positive. Emily's gonna hate me. I'm talking about her a lot because, to be honest, like, I don't think she gets this, but like the impact she's had on me just in our friendship of like the idea of like being positive about all these things in life. That like not subscribing to negativity, because truly like being negative is a choice. Just like being positive is a choice as well. It's all about your choice. And like I'm choosing to have a better outlook of the world. I think the world is a crazy place. I think it's messed up currently, especially given like a lot of our social injustices and inequalities, which is a huge issue that I could literally spend hours on, considering a lot of information I just learned recently about like how like government used to like red line and green line different housing property areas and stuff. But I choose to be positive on my outlook of the world, because I can't waste energy, and time being negative. Don't get me wrong, like I'm very realistic. I'm very realistic as well, but I'm choosing to not let things affect me in the way that society wants it to affect me. Like society wants to tell me that I should lose weight. Okay, I should work out more, I guess, to make myself feel better if I want to, but I don't need to like lose weight because society tells me so. They think that weight is a causation for like health issues. There's a correlation, but it's not causing it. I'm not gonna die because I'm overweight. On top of that, we're all gonna die anyways, so I really can't prevent that from happening at any point in time. I have changed my outlook a lot, and I think even the past like 3 years since I started this like self-love thing, that's changed my outlook immensely in how I view society in the world. Now I view it as like society will do X, Y, Z to try and bring me down, but there's also a place in society that will tell me you are doing good for resisting this. And there's a place in society that will say we celebrate you because you are fighting what we've told you. I know not everyone will believe that, but I think there is a place in society that will celebrate you for being you. You just have to find it and make that space yourself.
Now, you've started a project online based on this idea of positivity in life and body positivity, right? What's that all about?
Yes. So I started a project called This Is Me, the hashtag This Is Me project. And I began it because the idea of representation is so important to me. Like I said, again, like being such a huge intersectionality of a lot of different things that make up who I am, I feel like I was never truly represented very well growing up. The fat person on television was they were either funny, or they're the butt of everyone's jokes. You know, everyone made fun of the fat kid, or the fat kid, like was the ugly one. If you were gay, you were funny, but no one liked you. There was no arc for your growth as a character. Blacks were criminals, they were thugs, they were poor and uneducated, and whites were seen as this like master, all amazing, all encompassing of what you want to be in life. And so I feel like I was never truly represented a lot growing up. At least not for who I was. I think, I will say this: we're talking about my friends are talking about like the Disney Channel and stuff. In my generation, there was a lot of representation in different ways, especially in like original movies or like That's Raven or like The Color of Friendship and stuff. There was a lot of representation in different ways, but like as like the idea of intersectionality was not there, and so I wanted that. And I kept, and like I think as people, we keep waiting for that to happen. Like I started like my body positivity self love journey when I discovered Tess Holiday, who is a huge body positive activist. I believe she's like a fat accepting activist as well. If no offense if you don't know who she is, like you need to get out because. I think she's amazing. And she's very conscious as well as like where she fits into this. Like she's white, so she also understands the idea of like there's such a huge intersection when it comes to like black fat positivity and black body positivity and being a person of color and stuff. She's very conscious. But anywho, I was waiting for like, the next Tess Holiday, and I think I started this project more in response of Zach Mikos, who became like the first like male plus size model this past year, and it bugged me because. He's like, I want to say like over 6 feet and like 240 pounds. Like he's not, like he's overweight, quote unquote overweight, but he's not obese in any way. Like he is like hashtag dad bod. Like he's the average man to me, I wouldn't see him and think, oh my God, he's fat. I would never think that. And so I was really irritated at first because I was like, there's no representation for the big male. Like I said, I'm into fashion, and in America, there's like hardly any fashion for the big male. And so I got tired of waiting for that to happen. I thought, I just want to start something for myself and just just do it. So I had talked to my friend. She's gonna kill me as well because I've never used her pictures at all. She's gonna kill me. She was one of the first people that did the project. I've never used her stuff. And once I saw her, she was like, "I realized that you didn't even use my pictures. That's really funny." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." So shout out to me. I love you to death. And I'm so sorry. Please don't hate me. But I started with her, and when I was just shooting her for the project, I had also realized like this can be something more than like just me. Like the idea, like I said, the idea of representation is so vital to. I think humans now, especially in this day and age, we talk about a lot about being represented for who you are, and in the intersectionalities of who you are. So I started. I want to say, I guess April-ish. I think around April, I was spearheading this project about being who you are. And so I have people outline it on their bodies with I've been using this eyeliner pen eyeliner stick, which works amazingly. It comes off so easily with makeup wipes. I'm using that, and people outline what pressures are on them from society, what society tells them that they are or makes them feel. So I wrote unlovable and unworthy. I wrote unlovable on my stomach and unworthy on my arm because I felt like my weight meant that I will never find happiness in a significant other. And then you contrast it with messages of positivity that you have for yourself, that you try to tell yourself or that you try to tell to society. So I wrote that I am worth it. I have one friend who wrote too dark on her arm, and she wrote horse hair because people would say she has horse hair because she has weaves, and so when she'd have her weaves out and not have her braids in, people would say she has horse hair, and then she contrasted with I'm educated, I'm strong, I'm a mother, I am beautiful, I've had someone write about they wrote freak on their chin because they felt like growing up people thought they were a freak because they didn't have a defined chin. And then she contrasted with I am a freak, and she embraces that. It's more than just one issue. It can be physical, it can be personality-wise, it can be being able-bodied, being or being disabled. It can be having social anxiety or a mental disorder, or for being different race, different economic status. I want to be encompassing of all the factors that society and pressures that society places on us, and then I want to contrast it as a giant, like, not just like a middle finger to society, but also like the idea of creating dialogue about what affects us. And I think it's getting really big now, which is a bit terrifying because I did not imagine this to happen. We have, I think, like 2,000 followers on Instagram now, which is really scary. But also really cool to, but yeah, like, so I think that shift, sorry, I heard a song. That shift came, I started realizing that this can be more than just about like physical. Because I wanted to be, because at first I was just about physical stuff. And I realized, why not transcend that and be all-encompassing of everything, of all these factors about who people are.
So you mentioned That's So Raven and the Disney Channel original movies. Was there anything on network television, any character or situation in network television or even in a big Hollywood film that a character that you saw and you thought, oh, this is me, or this represents who I am?
Growing up?
Yeah, growing up.
No, I don't think there was one movie I saw. Well, no. Okay, well, I will say, Hairspray the musical. Not the original 80s movie by John Waters, which I love John Waters. One of my favorite, favorite everything. Just because it's just so stylistic and expressionistic in what he does. But the musical, I think that was one of the first moments I've had where I was like, I identify with this because Tracy Turnblad is a overweight woman, and it's about her journey with like acceptance and stuff, and you love her because she goes through the issues of like especially her mom puts on her like her mom's always trying to lose weight, but then the next diet craze, and she, like Tracy definitely goes through her issues as well. But at the end of the day, like she loves herself for who she is, and she loves like her body, and she doesn't have to change herself in that way to get a man like she ends up getting Zac Efron in the movie adaptation, and then but I believe it was Matthew Morrison, but the point itself is like she gets the man she wants, and she's happy, and she doesn't have to change her weight for it. I think that was like the first big key moment where I realized like this is how I identify with this, because I shouldn't have to change like my weight for somebody. If I'm happy with how I look and who I am, then like why can't someone see that? I think that was one of the first ones. Besides that, I really can't think of anything. Especially when it comes to sexuality. Being queer is not a thing you saw on television a lot. I used to watch Sex City with my mom growing up. I love that show. So love that show. Sex and the City. I need English properly. I love that show. But even then, like the gay characters on there was no really arc for them. There was Stanford and Anthony, but there was no arc for them. They were just there for a comic relief, and that. That's frustrating because that makes me feel like I'm just a comic relief. I went through a lot of issues thinking that I'm just a token gay. I'm just a gay who's there to make everyone laugh, and that's it. And there's no depth to who I am, or that people thought that of me.
Do you think that's why you wanted to go into film or theater?
Yes and no. I originally did theater because to me it was more of like an escape tactic, that I could be a character for a short amount of time that's like celebrated in this in this production, whether it's an antagonistic character or protagonist or good character or bad character, like they're like they're meant to be here. So I think it gave me like a place of belonging. But I also realized that even in theater, like I was always asked to bring like a sassiness to my characters. Which truly, I mean, sassiness is just a euphemism for like be more gay, because that's funny. So yeah, which I think is also a reason why I have kind of taken a step back from theater, because I think I was typecasted the same way, which I understand why, because I'm good at, I think I'm good at being funny on stage. I will say that, but I was tired of like being the same character. But there, even growing up, there still weren't a lot of plays. I think the first like big play I did that really talked about sexuality was the Larry Project, but even then that was more of like a documentary style play. And then 2 years ago I did the Normal Heart, which is a gay focused play. But I think like that was one of the first times I really did something that really like involved like me and like being like in my sexuality. But before then, I used it more as an escape to be a character that wasn't Jordan, because I didn't like who Jordan was for a long time.
Nowadays, do you feel like there's more representation on network television and in the big Hollywood films of any of your intersecting personalities, identities?
More for TV than it is for film, I think. I think film, I will say, I think film is hard to do it because you have to do this whole arc in 2.5 hours, or 1.5 to 2.5 hours, sometimes 3. TV, you have a whole season to do it. I think shows like How to Get Away with Murder, one of my favorite shows. I think Connor, the character Connor, is a gay character. He's white, so there's there's that like quote unquote issue, but he, like his arc is really interesting because it's funny because people get upset that they say like he's promiscuous, and like that's highlighting that gays are all I was gonna say sluts. I'm gonna say sluts. I'm not sure I can say that on this, so I'm gonna say sluts. But like that highlights that all gays are promiscuous and they're sluts or something. But I don't think people got like this. Still, like the idea of like gay sex on national television was a huge thing. They showed him essentially like giving like a rim job to a man, which is not something that, can I say that? Or
We're pushing the limits.
I am a limit pusher. I will go to the edge. He brought him to the edge too in that scene. That's a good scene. Who was hot? Anyways, no, really, like doing that on national television was such a huge thing, and it's funny because they're saying like oh he's such like a slut and stuff. But I thought if this was a straight man, you would just say, oh my god, like look at him, like he's doing good. But because he's a gay man, like this is nasty or bad. And so I think he broke that barrier essentially in a way. I think Empire, I love Empire. It's one of my favorite shows. I would say How to Get Away with Murder is one of my favorite shows as well because Viola Davis is everything as an actress. And I think even for her character, being black and a woman in power, that's two things. Being black and in power and being woman in power is such that we've never been fed in our lives as possible. And I think it's amazing that her character and her craft, Viola Davis is an amazing actress, her craft has really brought that to a forefront, at least for me at least. And then Empire, I think, is a really interesting take because a lot of people would think they're doing nothing but sensationalizing like the quote unquote thug life, But at the same time, like a lot of Empire is a lot how I grew up with like my dad's side of the family and like black culture. I think it touches on a lot of issues, and I think Jamal as a character being black and gay is an interesting issue as well because he a lot of times has to deal with the idea of like being too feminine because black culture and femininity in a man is really really big as equivalent to the idea of like machismo in the Hispanic Hispanic and like Latinx community as well. So I think there's more representation in TV shows. I think being overweight, I don't know about that necessarily. I haven't seen much, but I definitely see it in terms of like race and sexuality. I'm trying to think what else might be. I think like those are two like controversial. I think Empire is really controversial because that stuff is really big in the terms of like what's happening. But I think you have to you have to analyze it as a viewer as well. 'Cause I think a lot of people don't understand it. Like a lot of people just thought like, oh, it's just Viola Davis. She's a great actress, but no one's thinking like they're showing a black woman in power. With Empire, they're showing a black woman in power, showing a black family in power. Yes, it's the music industry, and that's a stereotype that black people are quote unquote only good with music and stuff, and that is a frustrating archetype and trope that I am frustrated to see a bit on television. But at the same time, it's still showing like people of color in power. I'm trying to think. Jane the Virgin, I haven't seen it before, but I hear that's an amazing show as well. Just the idea of like being like a Hispanic actress. I think it's funny. There was a moment. I want to say it was the Emmys last year, that it was like Michelle Rodriguez, Eva Longoria, or no, I think it was Gina Rodriguez and Eva Longoria they came out to present, and they were like, "Hi, I'm Michelle Rodriguez. Hi, I'm America Ferrera," because people get them mixed up for some reason. I thought that was really funny, but that also shows that like the lack of representation is so strong, in different communities as well. But I think we're getting to a point where we're getting more representation, but no way will I say it's there yet. We're finally starting a dialogue about it.
All right, we're going to take one more quick break. When we come back, more with Jordan.
Yeah, I'm Jay Holloway, the general manager / deep thought maestro at K-Beach. K-Beach, it's a unique place. I'll be nice and say that much. We have various programs, music, sports, and news. We do have a lot of live broadcasts, mostly for sports. We have special events. It's mostly student-run, student-supported. We do have community partners with us that help us out with DJs and volunteering, all this lovely stuff. and we try to give students the best way to show their inner selves behind the microphone. They go through extensive amount of training, and once they finish the training, then they can maybe get a show or be a show host or a ball operator, stuff like that. And it's a fun time, very fun time. I do a show called Beach Center, and that's more of a sports and news, I will say informational hour from 12 to 1. We have other shows like Small Talk. We have a show called Filthy Weird. It's pretty much that's what it's called, Filthy Weird. Then we have a morning show called Good Morning Long Beach State, and a night show called Sleep Tight Long Beach State. You can get me on my email at jay@kbeach.org.
You're listening to the Union Weekly Insider. This is a special interview with Jordan Daniels,
Hey, friends.
opinions editor at the Union Weekly. Now, I wanted to ask you how you feel about being a millennial.
Okay, so that's actually really good question. A really good question. A really good question, because the divide that there is on like millennials or Generation Y, and I'm looking at specific people who I love, who I do love and adore. But I think it's really interesting that they have like issues with being like millennials. The stigma of millennials is sometimes a true stigma, but also it is, it can't encompass like how we all are. I 100% identify as a millennial. I'm sorry, but if you were born within within the decade before the millennium, you are a millennial. That's just how I see it. You can say Generation Y, that's totally fine as well. But at the end of the day, like, you're a millennial, and you can't you don't have to identify with it. But I'm about like not having labels. But like, if you're grouped as a millennial, like, just stay with it. Like, why why do you have to have like such a negative connotation with it? I think millennials are at the forefront of a lot of social activism. I think as a collective, those of us who are conscious and woke, we're at the forefront of change. We are talking about women's rights. We're talking about feminism. We're talking about Black liberation. We're talking about Black empowerment. We're talking about Latinx communities. We're talking about LGBT rights. We're talking about all these things that are so important and necessary to have in society that I think it's empowering to be a millennial. I think there are certain things like the idea of like being entitled that word bothers me a lot. The idea of being entitled, that you have to like pay your dues and do this to like be somebody. And I don't subscribe to that, because it's not about being entitled. It's just about knowing that what I want or what I fight for is more than what I'm being given. I think a lot of people in the older generation say like when I was your age, we didn't have this. Well, that's not my fault. And no offense, but you can't put that on me. And you can say I'm entitled or arrogant. That's fine. I disagree with you. But what you're saying is that you're putting the blame on me for what your generation has done. So I embrace being a millennial. I think it's a great thing. I know that I fight for a lot of change. I fight for a lot of rights and activism. I know a lot of people who identify as millennials who do the same thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's just, at the end of the day, it's how you identify. That's totally cool. But I wouldn't see it as being a bad thing. Like I said, I know we have our stigmas of being like only being to like hookup cultures, or only being or we're always on our phones. We're never like being communal. We're never like talking in person and stuff. That's just a stigma to me. There's always gonna be a stigma of every generation group. It's not just millennials. We're just, I think there's an issue with us because we're so vocal. I think that's the biggest thing, is that because we're so vocal that people now have an issue about it. And I'm thinking, no offense to like like my parents. Like my parents often make jokes about how I'm too smart for my own good, or that I argue too much. And to an extent, I definitely do. I definitely think I do act too grown sometimes, but at the end of the day, like, that's how I was raised. That's how a lot of us are raised. We're told that we can be somebody, that we could do anything we want to do, if we work for it. And then now we're being told, don't shoot, don't aim so high, don't try so hard. You can't get everything you want, blah blah blah. But there's no reason why it's not. Like, besides the fact that there's a huge lack of opportunity, especially for like people of color and different sexualities and different backgrounds. Besides, like take that out, there's no reason why we can't achieve these things. And I think it's a bit childish on the older generation's part to say that we can't, just that we're entitled to it, because this is what we were told growing up, and now we're being told the opposite. I think like that's the issue. Or or they say like you millennials have a problem with authority. No, I don't. I respect my authority figures if I feel they're right. I have a problem with being told to not do something that I believe is, that I have a problem being told to do something that I believe is wrong. And again, that's when I was told as a child, was to stand up for what I believe in. It's not about not respecting, just being disrespectful. It's about, I believe what you're doing is wrong. I'm gonna say something about it. I'm not going to be complacent in something that I don't believe in. So I think a lot of stigmas that are attached to being millennial are just there because it's all about control at the end of the day. To me, it's all about the control. And if they can't control us, then they're gonna talk mess about us and throw shade left and right. That's it. But overall, I identify as millennial, to answer your question. Not be a tangent again. See, you can't ask an activist these things like that, because I'm gonna be like, let me tell you how I feel about it. Yeah.
Now you're looking to graduate in the spring.
I hope so.
What's next after that?
Oh my God, I hate this question. Okay, I hate this question for several reasons. One, because we're expected, let's go back to this idea of activism, we're expected as students and millennials to have an idea of what we want to do with our lives. Mind you, we're not given high opportunities from the older generations. I'm looking at you guys, baby boomers. We're expected to do all these things and have our whole lives planned out when we're not given the opportunity to do so. So stop asking us questions like, what do you have next? I don't even know what I'm going to have for lunch tomorrow. I don't know what makes you think I'm going to know about what I'm going to do next year after I graduate. I don't. I have an idea though, I do have plans to get there. I will say, I think for myself, I have an idea of what I want to do, and I have an idea of how I want to get there. Will it happen? I don't know. That is honestly up in the air, as with anything is these days, especially for millennials. So being a millennial is actually tough. We're not entitled. We actually have a hard life. You don't understand that, guys, but we actually have a hard life. I know people are going to disagree with me and say that's controversial, but there's a lot of pressure placed on, especially on college students, to have everything figured out when we don't have the resources to do so. Going back to myself, my plan after I graduate, I don't know. My parents are both disabled, and so I think a lot about if I want to move home or not, about to decide with them, just to help them out until I can be stable financially. However, I'm really into the idea of just throwing myself into something that's new and crazy, that's terrifying as well, believe me. But I was raised to be independent. I was raised to do things out of my comfort zone, because you won't know if you can make it unless you try it. So I don't know. I kind of want to start a magazine, to be quite honest. That's one thing I'm thinking about right now. A lot depends on where this project takes off. How it takes off. If it's something that can continue in the future as well. It depends if I find a job. In my career, I'm fortunate enough to have a job right now that kind of ties into what I want to do with my life. But I know after I graduate, that's not going to happen anymore, because you have to be a student here to have that job. So I don't know yet, but I'm also not stressing myself out about it, because I'm fortunate enough to have the ability to take a step back and move back home, which is a convenience that not a lot of people have, and I totally acknowledge that. And I think I'm very fortunate to have that. That my family says that I can move back with them if I need to. So I know I have that second option. I want to do whatever I can to not use that option, because I know for myself, I want to prove to myself that I can do this. That I can be on my own. So if I have my way, what's next is I'll get my own apartment. Just try living my own thing. Don't get me wrong, I love my roommate. Again, Emily, shout out to you. You are the best. I adore you in every possible way. I want to start being being an adult and living on my own and doing my own thing and stuff. So I've had my way. I live my own. I honestly think I'd want to stay in Long Beach for a little bit longer. Maybe find something to do work wise here. I'd love to freelance if I could. To some publications, and I would love to continue doing social commentary and social projects. That's what I'm really looking at. PR is my major, and I love public relations. And it definitely is a passion of mine. However, at the end of the day, I love to write about social stuff. I love to be a social commentator. I want to make a change and instill changing and instill dialogue and facilitate that. That's all about who I am. I love being transparent. I love talking about transparency. I love talking about everything. Clearly, as I'm overshowing my entire life story here. But yeah, so that's where I see myself if I have my way. I could also end up at my parents' house, working a pole. To be quite honest, I don't know. where this point where life takes me. Again, lunch tomorrow is my biggest thought. So.
Well, thank you, Jordan, for sitting down with me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Where can we find your project online?
So you can follow us on This Is Me Proj, Proj. That's on Instagram and on Facebook. We are also dropping our film campaign. We're actually doing a film as well, a fictionalized version that I wrote about the project for a script. So we're having our campaign launch hopefully this upcoming week, and that will be on Seed and Spark. So we will be linking that campaign to our Instagram and Facebook. We will also be having Snapchat and Twitter once we begin production of the film and stuff. But you can find us mainly on there. Also, we actually just launched a site, thisismeproj.wordpress.com. That's where also you can find us. We're trying to have more like blog content as well. Once this podcast is up, we will also be linking this to our page as well, because we want to have like centralized HQ. So yeah, This Is Me Proj for Instagram, Facebook, and thisismeproj.wordpress.com. There, if you can't find it, you can follow me on Instagram. Can I plug myself in there real quick? Oh, I can't because JOHO Daniels. I can't say out loud because I feel like that might be an issue. But JOHO Daniels is my Instagram name, and the WordPress link is on my page there, and then you can follow all the social medias from the page as well there too.
All right, thank you, Jordan Daniels, opinion editor for the Union Weekly. I'm Andrew Lindy, and you've just listened to the Union Weekly Insider.
Thank you for listening to the Union Weekly Insider. To listen to more episodes, check us out on iTunes or any of your favorite podcast apps. New episodes of this podcast drop every Wednesday during the semester. Special thanks to multimedia assistant Allison Meyer for additional editing and recording. Our multimedia manager is Andrew Lindy. Music in this episode is from the YouTube Audio Library. You can find issues of Long Beach Union Weekly online at lbunion.com and on Medium. Go to medium.com and search Long Beach Union Weekly. Please follow us on Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Union Weekly.
Next time on the Union Weekly Insider.
Hello? Hi?
So, Elliot, how's your page going?
Well, I've had a bit of a rough start, but these stories are on their way of being edited, and I think it's going to turn out pretty good.
It's a dinky thing.
It's a dinky thing.
It's a dinky thing.
Yeah, I mean, that was a plan since the beginning. I thought it was a bold move, but, people have to take risks, man.